GOP Fight Night, round 2, and the candidates came out swinging. 11 presidential hopefuls dueled last night on prime time, an effort to show who deserves a shot at the most powerful job in America.
No surprise, frontrunner Donald Trump took the most hits, and some attacks got personal. CBS News White House correspondent Major Garrett has the highlights.
I think really there's a sophomore quality that is entertaining about Mr. Trump, but I am worried.
I mean, the lack of judgment and the lack of understanding about how the world works is really dangerous.
I think Mr. Trump is a wonderful entertainer. He's been terrific at that business.
What I am far and away greater than an entertainer is a businessman, and that's the kind of mindset this country needs to bring it back.
Trump took the most questions and snapped at Jeb Bush over Trump's business dealings in Florida.
Donald Trump, he wanted casino gambling in Florida.
I didn't want
Yes, you did.
Totally false.
You wanted it, and you didn't get it because I was
it.
opposed to casino gambling before, during, and after. And that's not, I'm not going to be bought by anybody.
I promise, if I wanted it, I would have gotten it.
No way, man.
Believe me.
But he offered Bush a backhanded compliment when the topic turned to Trump's financial backing of one of Hillary Clinton's previous campaigns.
But the simple fact is...
Excuse me. 1 second.
No.
I didn't want to
get Donald, you cannot take
more energy tonight. I like that. Look,
I was asked the question.
I didn't want.
Asked her reaction to Trump's criticism of her looks, businesswoman Carly Fiorina said little, but conveyed much.
I think women all over this country heard very clearly what Mr. Trump said.
Amid an accusation he judged Fiorina on surface qualities alone, Trump doubled down.
I think she's got a beautiful face, and I think she's a beautiful woman.
It wasn't all conflict. Asked what their Secret Service code names would be as president, the Bush-Trump conflict cooled.
Ever ready. It's very high energy, Donald.
Mr. Trump?
Humble.
That's a good one.
And joining us now to talk more about this is our chief White House correspondent, Major Garrett. Oh, Major, where do we start? I want to talk about Donald Trump and Carly Fiorina, because that exchange seemed to show a little bit of a different side to Donald Trump than I think a lot of people were expecting. What did you make of that?
So the exchange about whether or not Donald Trump meant it when he said about Carly Fiorina she was essentially too ugly to be president gave Carly Fiorina an opportunity to deal with that issue, but not relitigate all of her emotional reaction to it, not take the country back through everything that Donald Trump said. She just said, you know what, I think everyone heard what he said. And then Donald Trump, as my piece indicated, seemed to forget what he was trying to accomplish from a political point of view, which is move off of that negative interpretation of what he said. And he basically repeated, though in a different context, the underlying problem, judging Carly Fiorina mostly, if not entirely, by surface qualities. The other thing that I think happened between Carly Fiorina and Donald Trump that will have a longer and cast a longer shadow over this campaign is the debate about what they did or did not accomplish as leaders of American business. Trump went after Carly Fiorina about her stewardship of Hewlett-Packard, substantial layoffs, stock price decline. Carly Fiorina had to defend that experience in her life. And similarly, Fiorina went after Donald Trump for 4 times with his companies using the bankruptcy code to shed debt and perhaps stick other people with debts that he accumulated in pursuit of business deals. Those are issues and specifics about their qualifications as business leaders I think we're going to see revisited down the road.
What do you make of Trump's performance overall in terms of energy, let's say? Did he have as much as we've seen in the past?
Well, it was a very long debate. Let's be honest. 3 hours is a very long time to remain, let's say, metaphorically and literally on the balls of your feet, intellectually, politically, and strategically. And this is the first time that Trump took a lot of incoming fire from a lot of different directions at a lot of different levels. Temperament, qualifications, knowledge. And he had to parry that. He had to deal with it. He had to deflect and defend. That's also time-consuming and tiring. So there are those who looked at the debate and thought maybe Trump got a little bit either lackadaisical or low energy as the debate wound to a close. That's probably true. The real question about this debate is, did it change the fundamental architecture of this race? What is that architecture? Trump is in the lead comfortably. Ben Carson and Carly Fiorina are climbing since the first debate. But Jeb Bush, Scott Walker, falling, and everyone else a sort of also ran category. No one really breaking out. Well, we need to find out in the next 2 weeks, and Republican primary and caucus voters will tell us in surveys in those states, did last night change impressions of Trump, Fiorina, Carson in significant ways, and give somebody else on that stage an avenue to break out and get closer to the front runner?
Yeah, in fact, the New York Times, the New York Post, rather, excuse me, says, beautiful Carly trumps the Donald. I mean, these are not the kind of headlines that the Donald wants to see. But let me ask you, you mentioned Jeb Bush, because a lot of folks obviously had high expectations well before Donald Trump made his name after those comments that people thought, oh, that he was going to be done with, politically speaking, and instead he is now in the #1 position in the polls. We'll see what, as you said, the surveys say. What did you make of his performance? Was it the forceful performance that people were hoping for, people who support him? Was it enough to turn things around for his campaign?
Bush had his moments. We saw some of them near the end, and we saw some of them in the feistiness with Donald Trump. And that exchange over whether or not Jeb Bush had sufficient energy was good for Jeb Bush, in the sense that many people, even those close to him, believe in the first debate he was a little too relaxed, a little too, not necessarily out of it, but not forceful enough and not energetic enough, not passionate enough about his pursuit of the presidency to satisfy many, even those close to him. He was better last night, but look, Jeb Bush has a very significant issue to deal with. He's been falling in the polls for 6 weeks. Yes, he has $100 million in a super PAC that can help him when the time comes, and it's going to be soon, to spend a lot of money to boost his image. But he's got to win this race on his own, and the first priority for him is to reverse the negative trajectory he's been on for 6 weeks. So there was a big task for Jeb Bush. You can't accomplish everything in a debate, but he did, I think, turn things around a little bit, or at least stop the decline.
Major, before you go, I just want to ask you, you said he has to win it on his own. Toward the end of the debate, Bush got probably one of his biggest responses from the crowd when he defended his brother. What did you make of that, aligning with his family, which he doesn't do very often?
Well, he was in a position where he both had to deal with the Iraq War, which he defended, and Donald Trump was saying he opposed at the time in 2003. Rand Paul said he opposed in 2003, and that Donald Trump said it was basically a disaster. And Jeb Bush was left with one level of defense that he knew Donald Trump, #1, would not want to counter, and #2, the audience would be sympathetic with. This is a political tactical decision on the fly. And what do? You say, I know what my brother did. He kept us safe. That is, for all those in the Bush administration, those still sympathetic to it, the one thing you can say about the Bush presidency that is both factually true and sympathetically resonant. Jeb Bush went back to that because he had to. It was a tactical move. It doesn't mean all of a sudden he's going to be embracing George W. Bush, his brother and father, saying he'll be just like them if he becomes a Republican nominee or president. But in that moment, it was a tight spot, and that was one way to get out of it.
All right. Chief White House correspondent Major Garrett. Major, thank you so much.
You got it.